It's fun.
If you have not yet voted in the city elections, newsflash, that's today. Today's the last day that you could do that. But do not turn off the Scruffy Stuff podcast. Just go ahead and transfer us on over to the Bluetooth in your car and drive to the polls to cast your vote. Here on the Scruffy Stuff, we're going to be doing something similar, not casting our votes for the city positions, but for imaginary positions that we came up with related to downtown Knoxville. Positions like party planner, which is a very important position I think that we need. Positions like the director of city pride and the mayor of the makers. Very excited to share what we came up with. But before we dive into that, let me just introduce myself. I am Ryan Wilusz, downtown growth and development reporter at KnoxNews.
And I'm Brenna McDermott, growth and development editor at KnoxNews.
And this is The Scruffy Stuff, a podcast about all the news happening in and around downtown Knoxville. And to kick things off, I would like to talk about the director of city pride, which I feel like is a position that maybe some people already kind of do this, right? You got like Visit Knoxville, Kim Bumpus, obviously a lot of city pride there. But I'm going to get a little bit more specific and say Drew McKenna. Drew McKenna, the person who has brought one Knoxville SC to town, I think is a great example of somebody who is really invested in this city and not just for personal gain. I mean, if you go over to KnoxNews.com, if you haven't been to a One Knoxville SC game, you can read about what that experience is like from our reporter Keenan Thomas. And it really is one of those atmospheres where you can really feel part of something bigger. And the entire city, especially with that name, One Knoxville, rallies around this team. So Drew McKenna has my vote for director of city pride. Again, totally made up position.
My first elected positions is a very serious list I've compiled. Official Sunsphere Shiner. We need somebody who is out there making sure the Sunsphere is shiny and letting people know the Sunsphere is being taken care of, being, the go-to expert and representative of all things Sunsphere. I tried to think about the happiest person in downtown Knoxville I could think of. Emily Stooksbury, new to Knox.
That is a great one. Yeah, I'm actually going to see her later today. I will let her know that she now has even more things to do because she stays really busy. But yeah, so you mean this in more of not a literal? I thought you were going to give me some.
I think she should be out there maybe she has a team of shiners, but she's the head Sunsphere shiner, making sure there aren't any scuffs.
Well, if you would like to read about how that thing actually does get clean, I wrote a story a couple years back now. It's over at Knox News. And the secret sauce, dish detergent. It's regular at-home dish soap. So there you go.
Hack.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have another one, and that is the mayor of the makers, one that I teased earlier. And so kind of connected to what you just said, Sunsphere, World's Fair, got us our Scruffy City nickname, but we're also known as the Maker City, the first official designated by Etsy Maker City in the country, and part of what got us that recognition was the work of Matthew Cummings over at Pretentious with his Pretentious glass blowing. And so I think when you think about the quintessential Knoxville maker, there's a lot of people in the city that are doing really cool things, but my mind always goes back to Matthew Cummings and the following that he has had over there, and just the ability to grow his business beyond just the glass, but opening a beer shop, turning that beer shop into a brewery, which I think you don't hear people talk about it this way often, but I think making beer should be considered in that maker sphere as well. And so yeah, nobody quite does it like Matthew.
I envision the mayor of the makers wearing a top hat everywhere they go. Is that part of the required?
Yeah, kind of like kind of like Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah, exactly.
That guy.
Exactly. I think that downtown Knoxville has a lot of great happy hours, but I think they are very sporadically promoted and you don't always know where to find good happy hours. So we need a happy hour coordinator in downtown Knoxville.
A really great idea. I love that.
Somebody to make sure that all the bars and restaurants have a great happy hour program and promoting those as one, maybe like a happy hour bar crawl every year. And I tried to think about who has a great happy hour. I think one of the quintessential downtown happy hours is at Downtown Grill and Brewery. Monday through Friday, 4 to 8 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's a happy, what,
Happy
10 hours?
hours.
Yeah.
It's great happy hour. So we need more of that in downtown.
So DGB. Well, if you're going to be hopping around from bar to bar, you definitely should not be behind the wheel. Let's not say probably. You should not be behind the wheel. So put transportation in somebody else's hands. And what better person to help you get from place to place than the imaginary transit director? Not Knoxville area transit. I'm keeping them out of this. We've been talking a lot about Knoxville area transit recently. Encourage you to go back and listen to the podcast about the trolleys. But this is in the private sector. I'm going to say Gina Kelly from Kiss Caboose, who also could be more than transit director. You really could expand this to Vice Visitors Bureau, perhaps. She does a really good job. People who are unfamiliar with the area just flag her down. Twinkie, she calls it, the bus with the steering wheel on the other side, and it's free rides around downtown. Just don't forget to tip. And she has a lot of good information. In fact, I use Kiss Caboose's Instagram sometimes. She always has a listing of all the local music that's happening around town at all the bars. And so if you're driving around with her, don't know what to do, get into, she has information like that about things that are happening on the weekends and on the nights that she's driving. So really cool transportation system to use, and great alternative to Uber or the scooters or the bikes. So yeah, Gina Kelly, transit director. It's official.
Love it. Another issue of mine is I'm getting old and I don't want to wait to get a table. And increasingly in downtown Knoxville, that's just the reality on a Friday or Saturday night. So I am looking to elect a director of walk-ins. Someone who keeps...
You got so clever with these. I'm sorry. These are great.
Someone who keeps... Almost, you know how when you go on to downtown Knoxville's website and there's a little thing that shows you how many parking spaces are open in every garage?
Oh, yeah.
I want somebody who's got an iPad, and you just flag them down in downtown and they say boop, 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 boop on the iPad. Oh, if you walk into Chivo right now, there's no wait.
Oh, wow.
And I zip over there and there's no wait at Chivo. Because sometimes you know how it is. You're hungry right now and you go to like 3 restaurants and there's like a 15 or 30 or 45-minute wait. And sometimes you just got to eat right then and there.
Yeah. I was going to say 15 minutes isn't so bad. You must be really hangry if you're getting all worked up over a 15-minute wait. But yeah. So who is this?
Yeah. So I tried to think about where is a place I go where I routinely can walk in and get a table? Central Flats and Taps. So one of the owners of Central Flats and Taps is Brian Howington. Brian, you've been nominated for office.
And elected, because we're just taking it into our own. This is a dictatorship on the voting side of things, where we're deciding for you what you're going to do. And I thought you were actually going to say Central Flats and Taps earlier for best happy hour, because they're really good there too. So you have 2 jobs now, Brian, right? Brian. Well, my next one is the UK ambassador, not the ambassador of the University of Kentucky. I was just in Lexington over the weekend. That was on the mind. But I got to thinking about, quite honestly, I was reading a Victor Ashe column. And so he was the former ambassador to Poland. And I got thinking about, who would fit a similar role with that today. And the name that came to mind was Jenny Boyd, owner of Jig and Reel, which is, I want one of the shirts, by the way, but I'm not Scottish or Irish. But they're shirts that say Scottish, not Irish. A lot of people think that's the Irish pub. It's not. The Scottish pub right there on the corner of Jackson and Central, that really does feel like, I feel like when you walk in, that you feel like you are walking in to a bar in Scotland. And they do a great job with the programming and the wide variety of Scotch. And just, it's not just a cheesy idea. I mean, Jenny Boyd has traveled to Scotland and really enjoys time there from the time that I've talked to her about it. And so I think she would be a great ambassador to the UK for Knoxville.
Not that Knoxville needs too much more public relations. We've got great entities like Downtown Knoxville and Visit Knoxville. But I think if we needed a PR expert, director of communications for Downtown Knoxville, only one person comes to mind. That is Cynthia Moxley. the retired co-founder of Moxley Carmichael.
Semi-retired. She's still out there.
And if you know her blog, The Blue Streak, she is, the #1 source of information for downtown gatherings, who's who wore what type, great content that people love. I think she'd be great for the position. So, Cynthia, we're volunteering you to come out of retirement.
Well, yeah, actually, I say semi-retired. I just got back from a Sports Authority board meeting earlier today, and she was there. She seems to be everywhere. She's one of those people, I feel like there's some Cynthia Moxley clones out there that are just, I don't know how she gets so many places and always in the know. But I'm going to move on to say the director of dining. We've had a lot of new restaurants. I mean, the 5 years I've lived here, we have went from burgers and fries to at like every other restaurant, it seemed like, to some really upscale concepts and some really unique and diverse menus of food and offerings around downtown Knoxville. And so for me, thinking, how do you get all these people together? And this is sort of a position that already does exist, so it's not completely fair. And I'm going to give the director of dining position to Brian over at Adopo. Brian already has a sort of a role similar to this. The Independent Restaurant Coalition, which is a national group that really came to the forefront during COVID-19, all the issues that restaurants were dealing with. And Brian started a Knoxville version of this. And so what he does is there's a lot of chefs and owners around Knoxville, from what I understand, and I'm pretty sure they're still gathering, and if not, even more reason to make this position, that they just kind of share what's going on, some of the challenges they're facing in restaurants, and try to come up with solutions and help lift each other up. And so he's already doing a lot of that as the owner of Adopo and as sort of a voice of the downtown dining scene. And so let's go ahead and promote him to the official, unofficial director.
Love it. I think a lot of downtown residents or people who come downtown know that in general conferences are happening around downtown all the time, but I never know who's in town, what's their organization, where's the conference at, and I just kind of would like to know a little bit more about these conferences because they do drive our downtown economy. So I'm looking for a conferences czar, someone to let the public know, these are the conferences coming to downtown, and also like be on the lookout. If there's 1,000-person conference, I want to know that I should avoid downtown maybe that day. So she's already got a big job, but Kim Bumpus at Visit Knoxville, I need you to be our conferences czar.
And she kind of already is, right?
Right.
I mean, you just need her to say, not only promote the conferences, but whatever the opposite of promoting it is to locals. Say, hey, don't come to this conference. So tell us who's coming and tell us not to come.
Yeah.
When there's
but also I think it's important to be super nice to people who are visiting on a conference and welcoming to them. So I would like to know, hey, this group's coming from Missouri, where I'm from. If I see somebody who has a lanyard around their neck, I'm going to say hi to them. You from Missouri? How wowed would you be with Knoxville if some random person was like, "Oh, I know your conference. You're from Missouri."
I would be wowed.
Or
and if you
freaked out.
Or if you see somebody from somewhere you don't like and they got a lanyard around their neck, just pull it real tight.
Right.
And
if they're from Tuscaloosa, we're not welcoming to them.
All right. Well, I got one more here that I wanted to share, and that is the party planner of Knoxville. City government's a lot of serious, boring sometimes, most times, and you need to let loose every now and then. And
basically, this list is turning into like all the elected positions for a sorority or fraternity.
Right, there you go. Which is perfect timing. School's back, and so perhaps he's already the king of planning parties. Definitely the king of letting loose. Never seen this man not loose. That's Scott West, an owner in the West Family Bars on Market Square. We're talking about Prez Pub. We're talking about Scruffy City Hall and Alice in Appalachia, Bernadette's, and Tommy Trent's. A whole collection with music every night of the week, it seems like. If not every night, most nights. And just great drink specials, divey. It's the kind of place, I've asked Scott before, why do you let smoking inside Prez Pub? He's like, well, the rock stars and the partiers smoke. And so he's known to throw a party. And so let's get him let's get him involved in a more official capacity, because dude knows how to have a good time.
And having a good time is important.
Yeah.
Another thing that's important is the economy.
Boo.
And of all my brilliant ideas, this one I actually think has a ton of merit. When I moved here 6 years ago, I was very surprised that there was not a specific organization or department of the city or of the downtown organization focused on shop local, spend dollars local. A lot of other cities our size have organizations that's their mission, to get people to keep their dollars in Knoxville. So we need a shop local ambassador in downtown. And I think one of our makers who has national acclaim, Marcus Hall of Mark Nelson Denim, would be a great choice for that.
I love it. So
what a great list.
Yeah, there we go. Congratulations, everybody.
Just what we need, more bureaucrats.
What we really do need, though, is some more 5-star reviews on this podcast and some more comments and letting us know what you like about the show. So before we end here, if you take a second to leave us a review, tell us what you like to hear us talk about next, we would appreciate it. And go ahead and hit that like or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on to get a notification every time a new episode drops, or just come back on Tuesdays. Also in the description, you'll find a link to 2 very exciting ways to also keep up with downtown news.
To join in on the downtown conversation, join our free Urban Knoxville Facebook group. Just answer a couple of questions to get started.
Yes, and there's also a link to the Urban Knoxville newsletter, which comes out every Friday now with a featured spot from New to Knox. We mentioned Emily Stooksbury earlier, so she gets 2 mentions here on the show. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by KnoxNews, so head on over to knoxnews.com/subscribe to take advantage of our latest offers to sign up, support local journalism today, and get unlimited access to not just downtown stories, but Knoxville stories, East Tennessee stories about business, government, politics, fun things going on around town. We need more of that. So go ahead and check out our offers now. And that does it for today's show. So we will be back again on Tuesday. Until then,
stay scruffy, Knoxville.